Hello, it's good to see you. Today I am back with another little talk. It's not really ASMR. This is something that several people have asked me to do lately, and I've been meaning to do it and I just haven't gotten to it, so today I'm actually going to do it. I've had several people send me messages and ask me if I would make a video about being a single parent. You know, people saying, look, they'd be at the beginning of a divorce, or I just found out I'm pregnant, and I'm just wondering how do you do it? So that's kind of a big topic. I mean, there's a lot you can say about being a single parent, and I use the term single parent because it's not just single moms. You have plenty of all different types of single parents, and it can be challenging. And it's kind of funny. It's when people ask me, how do you do it? Honestly, I have to laugh because sometimes I look back, especially when my kids were really small. I don't know how I did it. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, you may have had a similar situation where you went through some really rough times raising your kids, and you look back and think, I have no idea how I did that. I don't know how I got through that with my sanity intact. I really don't. I mean, especially when they were really little. I went through some really rough years there. Not just financially. I mean, financially it was rough. Physically, emotionally, mentally. It's rough. It's hard. It's worth it. My kids are worth it. I would do it 1,000 times over for them. But it's hard. It is hard. Sometimes you have really rough times. It's gotten better, but even as your kids get older, you have different challenges. Life can give you challenges anyway, whether you have kids or not, whether or not you're a single parent, even if you have a partner, a spouse, whatever. Life can be hard regardless. But I got to thinking about it today, and I made my little cards. I ended up with a bunch. Look at all these cards. Just little things I wanted to talk about. I ended up with a lot more than I thought I would. I wasn't really sure what I was going to come up with, but I came up with a lot of stuff. The first thing I want to say is this is just my opinion. I am no expert. It's just based on my experiences. I am also very fortunate to have people in my life who are also single parents. We kind of got here different ways. I have a friend who's a single dad whose wife basically chose drugs over her kids, and he has been raising the children by himself now for about 10 years. And I have another friend who is a widow who has kids. They're actually grown now, but she was widowed and had to raise them alone. I know several people that have had to raise their kids by themselves. So we all get here different ways, and that's kind of related to my first card, my little paper. Don't judge single parents. I think it's not as bad now, honestly. The stigma of being a single parent, it's not as bad as it used to be, believe it or not. Even 30 years ago, there was, you were really looked down upon, by a lot of people out in society for being a single parent. Unless, I guess, you were widowed. But if you were a single parent for any other reason, you could be judged for that. I think about my father's family. My father's family first came to this country around 1900, it was just one person. It was a young lady who was alone and single. She was unmarried and pregnant, and she was in her late teens, and I guess was just sent here by herself on a ship all alone. And she came over here pregnant and was treated like an outcast for a big chunk of her life because she had a child out of wedlock and had no one here, no family here. She had nobody, and she had to raise that child. She had a boy and had to raise him by herself. She never married, and it was, she was treated like an outcast because of it. I don't know what the circumstances were. We're not even exactly sure what country she came from, but that's totally irrelevant. But there's reason to believe that the story she gave was not 100% accurate. but it was just shrouded in mystery. We don't really understand what led to her being sent over here. But yeah, don't judge a single parent, because, like I said, you can end up a single parent for a number of different reasons. And we all make choices in life, and we, good or bad, you deal with the consequences of your choices. But it's not always choices that lead to it. Anyone can become a single parent. Anyone. And that's the thing that I think, a lot of people who judge single parents like to, sit on their high horse and think, well, I'm not like that. You could be a single parent tomorrow. You could be a single parent before you go to bed tonight. And that's the scary thing about life that I think we tend to not think about. We all teeter on that razor's edge of everything in our life falling apart and crashing down. All it takes is a phone call, a knock at the door, and your whole life can change. Everything that you thought you were going to have can be gone in an instant. Your partner can be gone. Your spouse can be gone. So it's very easy to look at a single parent and think that could never be you, but it could very easily be you for 1,000 different reasons. Your spouse, like my friend, your spouse may choose addiction over the kids. You may come home one day and they're just not there anymore. They could. I worked with this lady one time who literally, her husband came to pick her up from work. She got in the car and he said, I need to talk to you. I've discovered I don't love you and I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm going to take you home and then I'm never coming back. Out of nowhere, he was gone. They had a little boy together and she had to raise him by herself. She had no idea. Had no idea that he was unhappy. And he left her for another woman. She had no idea. Totally blindsided her. My mom had a friend when I was a kid whose husband was about 40 and died of an aneurysm and was left to raise 2 little kids by herself, very small children. And we went over to see her not long after that happened. And I remember I was playing with her daughter, but I heard her say, this wasn't supposed to happen. I heard her say that twice. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was still in shock, like she hadn't really accepted that he was gone. And she said, this wasn't supposed to happen. So it's good to think about these things, whether you're a single parent or not. There could be a car accident. You could lose the other parent very easily. Happy Monday. No, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but it's something to think about. I promise you that most of us didn't start out with the intention of being single parents. I didn't. I didn't imagine I was going to be a single parent either. But sometimes things happen and life changes and you are forced to make a choice. Some of us are, and you have to make some hard choices, and the end result may be that you raise kids by yourself. So it's not a lot of fun, but sometimes we have to make decisions for what's best for the children and ourselves. And again, I already mentioned this, but there are a lot of single dads too. I like I said, I have a friend who's a single dad, and that comes with its own challenges. One challenge that he had was he has a boy and a girl, and when his daughter was little, if they were out shopping or something, or just out and about, when she's like 4 or 5 years old, he's not going to send her in the bathroom by herself. But he didn't. It's like, well, I don't really want to take her in the men's room. They start to get to that age where it's like, I can't go in the ladies' room with her. A lot of places have like a family restroom, like it's a single restroom, but not every place has that. And there were times he would be out like at the park with her, with his 2 kids, and people would approach him and think he was like a child molester or something. Like, these are my kids, and people would just assume that he was, being inappropriate or something. It's very frustrating to hear about that. But I know a lot of the court systems favor the mother, but sometimes the father is the better choice to raise the kids. So you see, I think you're going to see more and more single dads as time goes on. I used to be a CPS investigator, Child Protective Services. I did that for a while in my early 20s, and it's wow, it's sad. It is unbelievably sad. Some of the circumstances the children have to live in, and sometimes the mom is not the better person to raise the kids when people split up. Okay, and this is so simple, but I mean, this is a good thing to remember, whether you're a single parent or not. Life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will, and that that kind of goes along with you can lose people very suddenly. I think we all kind of have a plan in our mind. We have this vague idea of how our life is going to go. You see, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to achieve this, and then this will happen. But that's not always the way things go. Sometimes things don't turn out the way you imagine they will. And I think some people have a hard time accepting that. They have a hard time coping with the fact that things are not going the way they wanted them to go for a number of reasons. So you may have a plan in your mind to get married and stay married forever and have your 2.5 children, and you're going to live happily ever after, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. So I'm not saying that you have to be nihilistic or anything, but it doesn't hurt to give a little bit of thought to what if it doesn't work out? What would I do if for some reason I found myself raising my kids by myself? How would that go? What would I do? Because it could happen to you. Oh, and this is something that this is more for young people, just young people. It's something to keep in mind. And you can say I'm old and a fogey or whatever, but being a single parent isn't as it appears on TV or in movies or online or for celebrities. You may think being a single parent is whatever celebrity you're looking at their pictures online and their Instagram or whatever, and it looks so glamorous and it's like so much fun. It's just nonstop fun and yay, and it's not really like that for 99.999% of us. It's probably not going to be that way if you decide to have a child very young. It's because you have to remember the stuff you see online or wherever, it's not real. It's a filtered reality, and I think everybody does that to a certain extent. The stuff they put online. You put out your best pictures. You put out the happiest moments. You don't put the picture on there where you have spit up on your shirt and your hair's a mess and you haven't had a shower in 3 days and you look like a zombie and you're holding a screaming baby. You're not going to put a picture of that on there. But that's going to be your reality for at least part of the time. You are going to have some rough times. And these people that you look at with their babies, they probably have nannies, they have personal chefs, they have personal trainers, they have maids, they have people to take care of all of the little boring details of life. They don't have to really deal with much. At least it's not as much as the average person does. So they have somebody to do their hair and their makeup, and they have photographers, and they have all these things that you don't see behind the scenes. You don't see all that, but it's there. So they give you a very distorted view of what parenthood may look like, and single parenthood. They make it look glamorous. A lot of them do, and perfect and wonderful and amazing, which it is amazing and wonderful, but it's also a lot of work, and you're not going to have a staff of people to help you the way they do. I'm just saying, don't rush into becoming a single parent. It's not what it looks like. This one is, be careful who you have kids with. Yeah. I can tell you, if you pick a toxic person to have kids with, guy or girl or whatever, if you pick a toxic person to have kids with, you are going to be tethered to that person for the rest of your life. And you're going to have to deal with them a lot for the next 18 years. Yeah, and if you end up having children with someone who likes a lot of drama, they can make your life a lot harder than it has to be. And you're probably not going to stay with them. And if you do, it's going to be even worse. Your life is going to be a nightmare. You're going to raise your children in an unhealthy environment. You're going to end up with a lot of problems. And don't, especially if you're young and you're dating someone and they seem obsessed with the idea of having a baby together, that's a huge red flag. This person, of course, oh no, they love me, we're in love, we're going to be together forever. You're probably not. And, just, there's no hurry. Slow down. You don't need to rush into having children when you're young, like a teenager. You don't need to do that. Take some time to get an education, better yourself, gain some maturity and some wisdom. You have to remember, too, the human brain is not fully developed until you're about 25. And the last part of the brain that develops is the area that affects judgment. The part of your brain that allows you to make good judgments is not fully formed until you're about 25. So if you're 16 and thinking about having a baby with your boyfriend that you've been dating for 3 months, your brain is still not really capable of making a sound decision in that regard. And if you're with someone who is pressing you to have a child with them and even saying things to you like, well, we're just going to have to break up if you don't, break up with them. Seriously, get away from them, because they are not, it will not end well. You will end up raising a child by yourself, and you will be dealing with them possibly in court. You will have to deal with all kinds of stress and strain and struggle from that person, whether would be the mother or the father of the child. You will have to deal with years and years of problems. Be careful who you have kids with. And that's whether you're 18 or 28 or 38. Be very careful who you choose to have children with. Pay attention to everything about them. How do they treat you? Seriously, how do they treat you? Are you an afterthought to them? I mean, honestly, do they put you down? Do they criticize you a lot? Look at how they treat their parents, especially the parent that is the same sex as you. Like if you're a woman, and theoretically I should have done this, look at how he treats his mom. Does he treat her with respect or not? Because how he treats his mom is probably how he's going to treat you ultimately. Maybe not right now. Maybe you're still in that honeymoon phase of your relationship. But if he treats his mother poorly, he will probably treat you poorly. And if you're dating a woman, look at the relationship she has with her dad. Is she a little princess that goes to daddy to pay for everything and rescue her from herself and the problems she got herself into? Does she expect daddy to fix all that? She will probably expect that of you. As the relationship progresses, she will probably start to expect you to take over that role for her. And that will lead to a lot of problems. I would not advise having a child with someone like that. If she's overly interested in how much you make, especially if she doesn't have a job herself, I would not have a child with that person. I wouldn't. I know I have a character, Charity, that does that, but I don't, I'm not that way in real life. I would never want to get involved with somebody like that. Especially if you have a child with them, because they will be screaming child support as soon as the contractions start. So be careful who you have kids with. Seriously. I don't care how wonderful the relationship seems right now. You have to think with your head, and theoretically I should have done this a little bit more than I did. Looking back, there were a lot of red flags that I missed that seem very obvious now, but I just, it's like I explained it away at the time, like, oh well, you know, he only yelled at me and said those things because you know, he was having a bad day, and I shouldn't have made him angry like that. I internalized a lot of the stuff that went on hypothetically and blamed myself for the treatment that I received for a long time, several years. And you know, if I had been thinking more objectively, I would have realized, no, it's not, I am not to blame for the way he acts. I am not going to hold myself accountable. It's not my fault that he says and does the things he says and does. That is his choice. It's not, I don't deserve to be treated this way. So if you're with someone who is verbally or physically or emotionally abusive to you, or anyone in their life, if they treat anyone that way, that is a big red flag. Whether it's a man or a woman, you want to get away from that, because eventually they will start to direct that toward you. You will set them off, and they will direct that at you. They're toxic people, and you can't do anything about that. You can't change that. You can't fix them or save them. The best thing you can do is get away and do not have children with someone like that. Because not only are you going to be subjecting yourself to years of this treatment, whether you're with them or not, if you have a child with them, they will use that child to continue to abuse you. And they will try to do it through the child, which is toxic and devastating for that child. And it's toxic and devastating for you. And trust me, from my own experience, you do not want to deal with that. You don't want to go down that path. Please learn from my experience and don't ignore those red flags. Okay, another thing, after you become pregnant and you have a child, whether you're single or not, one thing you have to know, and I'm sure you've heard this, but it's very true, it's not all about you anymore. You know, that's another thing I would tell young people. Children are not toys that you play with and then stick in the closet when you're bored or want to go do something else. Once you have a child, your whole life is going to change, and it will never be the same again. It's a wonderful experience. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. It's the most rewarding experience I have ever had, having children. And this is coming from somebody who up until 30 said she didn't want kids. I was very adamant about that. I grew up in a very dysfunctional home, and to me, the thought of having children was awful, because what I grew up seeing in my home was that having children was a burden. It was an inconvenience. There wasn't much joy in it. The kids are just in the way. That's the impression I got growing up. And I always said I never wanted kids. And nobody ever asked me why. They thought it was cute. Like, oh, you'll change your mind. Which ultimately I did. When I hit 30, I finally felt like a grown up for the first time. And I got to thinking, you know, if I do want to have a kid, you know, I'm 30. I can't really put it off too much longer. And I was married to my kid's dad at the time, and we did decide to have a child. So we had my older son, who's now 15. Just hard to believe. My God, they grow up so fast. He's 15 and like 6'2", and still growing. But yeah, once you have that baby, it's not all about you anymore. You are not going to be able to put yourself first anymore. You're not going to be able to put your partner first. You're going to have to focus on your child. that's why and I know everybody has a different opinion about it. Some people say, have your kids when you're younger, so you have more energy, you can enjoy it more. But I'm glad I waited until I was 30. I was 31 when he was born. I was 35 when my younger son was born. He was kind of a bonus. He was my bonus kid. The good thing about waiting until I was 30 to get pregnant was that, I'd finished college, I was established in a career, I was making decent money. I kind of felt stable, and I'd had chances to travel a little bit. I never really traveled far, but I could do things kid-free for a while. And I felt ready. I just felt ready to have a child. And I'm glad I waited. But that's a very personal choice. I knew people who had kids when they were younger, and they're glad they did it, like in their early 20s. I know people who had their kids when they were younger and regretted it, wish they had waited. You never know. You just kind of have to figure it out for yourself. That's something that everybody has to decide on their own. But whenever you do it, your whole world will change. Nothing will ever be the same again. One thing you enjoy now is when you want to go somewhere, you just pick up your keys and your wallet and you walk out the door. If you've ever had a baby, it's never going to be that way again. You got to get the diaper bag, you got to get the kid, you got to get the car seat, you got to get snacks or bottles or whatever. You're going to be loaded down. You're going to have to make like 3 trips to the car to get everything in the car that you need. You're never just going to walk out the door and go anywhere. It's funny because I remember being jealous of people who could do that. Yeah, that was a luxury I didn't have for a long time. I can do it now because my kids are older, but yeah, for a long time that never happened. Especially when my younger son was born. So then I had a 4-year-old and a newborn, and oh my God. I was pregnant when their father and I split up, and I'm not going to get super personal about it, but I had to go through a very difficult pregnancy with a very young child at home, and working full-time by myself, and it's not glamorous, it's not Instagram worthy. It is hard work. It is a lot of just day-to-day grunt work. It's like Groundhog Day, only you get bigger every day. It was worth it, but it was tough. Okay, now if I had to give you one piece of advice for being a single parent, it would be this right here. Do not criticize or trash talk the other parent in front of the child. Don't ever, ever, ever do that. And I know it's hard. Everything you say about that parent in front of your child, because trust me, even if you're not speaking directly to that child, if you say it within earshot, that child's going to hear it. They're going to hear it, and they're going to listen to every word you say about their other parent. Whether it's the mom or the dad, whatever, they're going to hear it, and they are going to internalize it. Because that's their parent. We get two. We get 2 parents, and those people are irreplaceable to that child. And anything negative and bad that you say about the other parent, they are going to take that personally. It will hurt your child, whether you ever see it or not. They may not show it. They may even agree with you to try to get your favor, because they feel like to get your approval, that's what they have to do. And it's really sad to see that. Because like I said, I was a CPS investigator. I saw it all. And sometimes kids would just trash talk the other parent and keep looking to the parent they were with, like, yeah, isn't that right? Yeah, she's terrible, or he's awful. Yeah, it was so sad. And that parent would sit there and just go on, and I would have to just say, why don't we just get the child to go somewhere else while we talk about this? And I'll try to just change the subject and remove the child from the area, try to get him out of earshot. It's hard, I know. especially if the other parent is trash talking you and they're criticizing you to the child and then you hear about it. Theoretically, I may know a lot about that. It's very hard. You may have to literally bite your tongue to keep from getting pulled into it. Like, hypothetically, say one day your 4-year-old comes back from spending the weekend with the other parent, and the first question they have for you is, "Mom, how come you don't do anything but sit on your butt all day?" And my first instinct is to say, "Oh, really? Oh, really? Is that what you heard? Is that what you heard? Well, let me tell you something. You can't do it. Don't. The way I decided to deal with it was to just shut it down quickly. "How come you don't do anything but sit on your butt all day?" "That's not what I do all day. That is inaccurate. So how was your weekend?" And I answer the question, and then we move on to something else. Or they'll come back and, say, "Well, Dad said this and that about you." And I would say, "Well, everyone is entitled to their opinion. That is inaccurate, but he is entitled to his opinion. So how was your weekend?" And just let it go. Don't get pulled into it. It's very hard. I know it's very hard to do that because they can say some unbelievably awful things, especially if you had children with a toxic person. That's what I'm saying. Do not have children with a toxic person, because it doesn't stop when you divorce or split up. They can use the child, and they have no qualms about using the child to continue to treat you like crap. Joe is hammering on something. Hang on. I think he's done. I'm not really sure what's going on over there. I haven't looked out lately. I'm almost afraid to, hypothetically. So anyway, keep it to yourself. If you need to vent, if you need to, like if you hear, "Oh my God, you won't believe what they said," get away from your child, get far out of earshot. Do not say it where they have any chance of hearing you. Get on the phone, call a friend or somebody, and, vent your frustration to someone else. Do not do it in the presence of your child. You can't control what the other parent does, but you can control how you respond to it, and you can control what you do. It would be great if we could all do that. But unfortunately, some people have no interest in being, having a healthy relationship with anyone. So this is what they do. This is a side note. This is a bit of a tangent, but I will tell you this. If you do end up having a child with a toxic person or a narcissistic person, and this continues to be a problem, like if they start trying to communicate through the child with you, because I find in my experience that toxic narcissistic people are actually kind of cowardly. They won't confront you directly. They will try to do it through other people or other means. They won't talk to you directly. Don't engage in back and forths with your ex through the child. And this is something that theoretically, let's say I dealt with this. And I would, employ the method that I mentioned a minute ago, "Oh, how come you don't do anything but sit on your butt all day?" Well, I don't just sit on my butt all day. So how was your weekend? And if those things continue, if they continually come home with questions and statements that clearly came from the other parent, don't vent your frustration to the child. What you do is contact the other parent directly. And I would recommend doing it by email so you have a record of it. Contact that parent directly, and you don't have to get into details about it. At first, you can just say, "It seems that you have some issues with me. It seems that there's some things going on that you might want to discuss with me. In the future, if you need to address issues with me or problems, I would appreciate it if you would come to me and speak to me directly instead of conveying them to our child." And say "our child," because it is not your child. Well, it is. But you can't just say "my child." It's "our child." You had a child with this other person. You have to call it "our child" because it's not just your child. You did not create it by yourself. our child, and tell them Olive is meowing at me. She wants to come in, but if she comes in, she'll run around the room like the Tasmanian devil. So try that. And of course, they're going to gaslight you. They're going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And then if you need to, you can give examples. And that's why I recommend doing it by email, so you have a record of these conversations so they can't deny it later. You can say, well, my child came home and said this. My child asked me this. I'm sorry, our child came home and Olive is distracting me. She's meowing at me. Our child said this and this and this. So obviously, this is something that you've been discussing with our child, and I'm asking you in the future to leave our child out of it and discuss it only with me. And if you do that, it worked. Theoretically, it worked for me. It shut it down. Now, it may not shut it down permanently, but after I did that, my son started coming home and not doing that. It was just, he would just tell me about his weekend, and I didn't hear any more of that kind of stuff for a while. And then you have to go through it again because they get comfortable after a period of time, and then they start doing it again. And when it starts to become a problem, you just repeat that same method. Contact them directly by email so you have a record of it, because a lot of times toxic people tend to either rewrite the past or forget it altogether, and then they will claim you never discussed anything with them, but you have the email, you can prove you did. So if you have an issue with your ex, you don't need to talk to the child about it. There's no need to involve the child at all. Contact your ex directly and see if you can work the problem out, and hopefully you'll be able to do that. Also, don't keep the drama going if you have any way to shut it down. And hopefully, if you do have an ex, maybe you have a better relationship, because I do know people who have a good relationship with their ex, and these things aren't even problems. And, it must be nice. I wouldn't know. But don't keep the drama going. If there's a way that you can, stomp out the drama and eliminate it, do it, because it will make your life easier. But more importantly, it will help your child, because even if you don't see it, your child picks up on this stress. It picks up on this, and it probably hears some of these conversations, and it's taken all that in, even if you don't know it. As a child growing up in a dysfunctional family, I am a classic example of someone who grew up in a home where the parents stayed together for the sake of the children when they really shouldn't have. I totally respect their decision to do that. But I grew up in a home where the only image of marriage that I ever saw was two people who couldn't stand each other and didn't even really like being in the same room with each other, and it was awful. And my mother was kind of under the impression, and she literally, I heard her say this to somebody once because somebody asked her about it, about, well, you two, seem to have a lot of problems. You ever think about the kids? And she said, well, kids are resilient. It doesn't affect them. She said that we were resilient. And I remember because I was little and I had to go look that word up. But she said, oh, it doesn't affect them. It totally did. It did. So even if you don't think it's affecting your child to have drama going on, whether it's with your ex or somebody else in your life, it does. It does. Even if you don't see it or pick up on it yourself, it's there. And that's the more important thing. You don't raise a child in an environment like that. Do whatever you can to fix it. Whatever you need to do. If there's anything you can do to eliminate stress and drama, please do it for the sake of your child and yourself. And this is easier said than done, but try to maintain a mature relationship with your ex if you can. It's not always possible, but try. At least you can take the high road. You can be the mature one. You may not be able to bring them up to your level, but you can stop yourself from being dragged down to their level. And everything you do, everything that's going on, look at it in terms of, is this good for my child? Is this the best thing for my child? And is there any way I can make it better? Is there anything I can do to make this better for my child? And if you can maintain a healthy relationship, please do. It's so important for your child to see that you may not be together anymore, but at least you can get along. Oh, this is one I had a problem with for a long time. Pick your battles. Do not die on every hill you come to, because I had a problem with that when my children were small, because I had a lot more contact with their dad back then. It seemed like there was just a lot going on, and I had to constantly communicate. And you're going to have disagreements. Even if you have a good relationship with your ex, there are going to be issues that come up. There may be scheduling conflicts. There may be things about raising the children you don't agree on. Don't try to die on every hill you come to. You have to learn to save your energy for the things that really matter. If they send the kid home in dirty clothes, yeah, it's annoying, but it's not worth having a tantrum and flinging a fit over it. Just get them inside, give them a bath, put some clean clothes on them, and just go on about your day. Or, you find out they drank, soda all weekend, or they had birthday cake for breakfast or something. Just let it go. Seriously, it's not worth starting a war over it. Just learn to pick your battles. That's good advice for anybody. Having kids can be a good time also to work on improving yourself. It can be a catalyst for a lot of people to really focus on what they can do for themselves to be better. Take a good long look at yourself and figure out what you need to improve or work on. If you want to provide a better life for your child and yourself, you may want to look at going back to school, finishing your degree, maybe changing careers or getting a job if you don't have one, or something that you want to focus on and work on. And it may be something as simple as, I need to learn to control my temper. And believe it or not, that was one of the things I had to work on, because I actually have a pretty quick temper. I have a very short fuse. I get mad very quickly. My mother, I've always been that way since I was small. She always described me, she said, as a summer storm. She said, you were like a summer storm. It just blows up out of nowhere, and it's just crazy, and then it just blows away. And that was the way my anger was. I was quick to anger, and then it would just kind of dissipate, and I was back to being happy again. But I would get angry very quickly and have a fit, But when you are raising children, you want to set a good example for your children, and that's very important to me. Is that I want them to look at me as somebody they want to be like. I want to be a good role model for them. And also, I don't think I made a card on this, but I meant to. Find other people in your life that might be good role models for your kids. Like if you have, a family member or a friend or someone that, like they're a hard worker, they're very honest, they have something good going on. It might be good for your kid to spend some time with them too, and just to be around as many good role models as possible is good for any kid. And that's something I had growing up, and that was in one respect. And I was very fortunate that I had good role models, and my parents were good role models in their own fashion. The hardworking, they taught me to be hardworking and dependable, and look out, take care of the people in your life, and take care of your own responsibilities, be independent, that kind of thing. They helped me learn that. So whatever it is that you can do, even if it's just the first step. I'm not saying you have to solve all your problems in a day, but there's always something you can do. There's always a step you can take starting today. Like, I want to control my temper. Okay, a step I can take today is I need to start figuring out what my triggers are, what makes me angry. And anger is kind of a secondary emotion. You need to figure out where that anger is coming from. typically it's not the thing you're raging at. The anger is coming from somewhere else, and you need to try to find the source of that anger. I think a lot of times the source of anger is fear. I think a lot of anger stems from fear. And you have to do some serious introspection to figure out what the source of that is. And for me, it involved going back to my childhood and trying to unlearn a lot of patterns I learned growing up. That's a bit of a tangent, but if you want to make more money, you might want to go back to school. And going back to school now is easier than ever. You have online classes, which is awesome, and like when I finished up my English degree, I didn't want to get any student loans, so I just took classes and saved up money and would pay for them, pay for one class at a time. It took longer, but I got it done. You may not be able to graduate as quickly as other people, but even when you have kids, you can still further your education. You can get training in different things, and you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it. And you're setting a good example for your child at the same time, because they see that. You may not realize it, but they see you working hard. They see you, working towards your goals, and they understand. And you can even talk to them about, I want us to have a better life. And in order for us to have a better life, this is what I'm doing right now. I am working every day towards this goal. And your kids are going to learn from that. They will learn a lot more from what you do than from what you say. I think I have a card on that somewhere. I do. Here it is. Do as I say, not as I do. You can tell your kids all day long to do this and that. Don't do this and that. They're going to do what you do. If you sit here and tell your kids to be nice and to get along with people, and then they see you screaming at the cashier in the grocery store, they're going to model their behavior after what you do instead of what you tell them to do. So you become a lot more aware of your own behavior. Yeah, I did, because you will start to hear your words coming out of their mouth, and that can be a real wake-up call to you get a really good look at yourself through your children, and take it as a lesson learned and something that you can grow from and change if you want to. It's a funny story. My younger son, when he was about, I don't remember how old he was. He was little, like a year and a half old. We were sitting waiting to pull out of the parking lot at the grocery store, and I had to turn left and cut across traffic, and the traffic was awful, and we're sitting there, and I said, oh, I hate traffic. And he piped up in the back. He said, I hate traffic. Like, he was so excited. That was like his first full sentence. I hate traffic. And then for about a week after that, everywhere he went, he said that to everyone. He went to daycare. Oh, hey, how are you today? I hate traffic. What do you want for a snack? I hate traffic. So in that case, I guess he was doing what I said. He was copying what I said. But yeah, at a certain age, you have to be careful what you say around them. Yeah, so this goes along with that. Model behavior that you want your child to learn. If you want them to be a good person, you got to be a good person. If you want them to be nice to people, you got to be nice to people. If you want them to say please and thank you, you need to say please and thank you. Because they're going to do what you do. They're not going to focus as much on what you tell them to do. And this is one that a lot of single parents neglect, and I'm guilty of it too. Take time for self-care whenever possible. Any little thing you can do for yourself. I mean, even if you don't have a day to go to the spa. I didn't have the day or the money to go to the spa. I would feel guilty for it anyway because I needed that money for other stuff. But if it's just, take a bubble bath or watch a TV show, or, if you just have a moment to yourself, whatever it is you like to do. Maybe you want to sit and read a book for a little bit, take a walk around the block. it can be any little thing that just gives you a moment to just kind of take a breath and step outside of your parent role for just a minute and just, focus on yourself. And see, I've worked full time. I took 6 weeks off with my older son and 6 weeks with my younger son, and then I went back to work full time after that. One of the things about having a job outside of the home, though, is that I would use my lunch hour 3 days a week to go to the gym and work out. And that was a good thing for me. That was something that was kind of for me. I always felt better. I really miss my gym right now. I haven't been to the gym since March. I'm so sad. Everything like that here is still shut down. But it was nice, I could go to the gym and just exercise. And it was just nice. It was like my little break in the middle of the day, and then I have to go back to work, and then I go pick up the kids, and then I'm going nonstop till bedtime, But that little bit of time there, 3 days a week, was a lifesaver for me, to be able to just go work out and get those endorphins and feel good, and it was nice. It was a good thing. And this is something that if you're not there now, and again, like I said, we all become single parents for different reasons. We all get here different ways, and we're all at different points. We all have different circumstances for our lives. Figure out how to work toward independence, and that can be financial, mental, emotional. Because again, I think it's all about modeling good behavior for your kids. And that's something that I've always tried to do, is to show my kids, you can take care of yourself. We are okay. We don't need to depend on others all the time. We can do this. And it gives you a lot of confidence in yourself. That's not to say it's ever wrong to ask for help. I'm not saying that. But if there's anything you can do to become more independent and to be the parent that your kids need you to be, I would suggest starting down that path. Take the first step towards working toward that goal. Sit down and write down what your goals are. I want to be more financially independent, or I don't want to feel the need to go vent every day to someone. I want to be able to, cope with things better. I need better coping strategies in my everyday life. And talking to a therapist could be a good way to work on that kind of stuff, if you can do that. Sometimes therapists or a life coach might be able to help you with some of that kind of stuff. So that's a good thing to do. And this is something that I try to do, although I said I was going to do it more this summer than I have. Expect your child to help out around the house. Teach them how to do stuff. This is very important. People ask me all the time, how do you do everything? Well, the thing is, I don't do everything, and you shouldn't be doing everything either. As your children get older, you can expect them to start doing work around the house, and they need to. They need to understand that as part of the household, they need to do their part. They need to do their share of work. They should not expect you to do everything. It's not good for the kids, because then you end up with kids who go on to become adults who expect someone else to clean up after them and do things for them. And you have to remember, you're not raising kids, you're raising adults. You're raising future adults that you're going to send out to the world. What kind of adult do you want to send out there? Do you want to send one out there who is going to be like a lot of the girls in my dorm when I went off to college at 17, who had never done a load of laundry and had no earthly idea how a washing machine works? Had one girl pour an entire bottle of detergent into the washer because she didn't know how much to put, and flooded the hall with suds like an I Love Lucy episode. No, and I don't care if it's boys or girls. They need to learn to cook. They need to learn to clean. They need to learn to clean up after themselves. They need to learn to do, mow the lawn, pull weeds, whatever it is that needs to be done around the house. There's nothing wrong with some hard work. A little hard work is a good thing. You need to get sweaty and do some work every now and then. Otherwise, adulthood is going to be a shock to your children, because they're going to have to do it eventually. Do you want your kids to be like my theoretical neighbor Trip, who is now into his 4th month of trying to fix a motorcycle that is apparently never going to run. Trip is at least 30 and lives with his parents. I guarantee you his mom still does his laundry and cooks his meals. He is a man child. I don't know that he'll ever move out. Do you really want to end up with that? Teach them to be self-reliant. Teach them to do things for themselves. Not only will it help them as adults, it will help you now because you will not be burdened with all that extra work. You won't have to constantly go along behind them cleaning up after them. You shouldn't be doing that. When my kids were, when they were 2 years old, you can start when they're small with little things. They were expected to pick up and put away their toys. Before nap time every day, you pick up and put away your toys, or before bed or whatever, set a little routine. Well, you got all these toys out, and you're going to have to put them all away. It's a little simple chore. It just takes a few minutes. Get them in the habit of doing that. And, if they don't clean them up, and if they start to get a little petulant with you, and mine did that sometimes, and I'll tell them now, do you want me to do it? And they'll go, no, ma'am. Because if I clean up, I will put them all in a trash bag and stick them in the attic for a month. That's because that's a consequence when you don't clean up. I'll clean up for you, and then you won't have them anymore. I know a lot of people may think that's harsh, but my kids clean up after themselves. I don't have to do it. So expect them to do their share around the house. There's nothing wrong with it. Teach them to clean the shower. Teach them to scrub a toilet. Teach them to sweep and mop. These are all things that as adults they're going to have to know how to do. And a shocking number of young people have no idea how to do these things. Don't send them out into the world that they're unprepared. You focus on their academics, you focus on their extracurricular activities. You are missing a huge chunk of important things that they're going to need to know as adults. I would much rather my child know how to do these things right here than to know how to kick a soccer ball. It's going to serve them much better as an adult than, a sport or whatever. Teach them to clean up after themselves, and that way it makes it easier for you now, and it makes their lives better when they're older, and it's going to make the lives of everybody in their life better. Oh, yeah. Don't overindulge your child to compensate for the absence of the other parent, or to compete with the other parent, because I've seen both. And if you have an ex who is toxic, this may be another thing they do to mess with you. Or, maybe it's their own guilt, where they will go, to their other parent's house for Christmas and come back with $1,000 worth of presents. Theoretically, I may have dealt with that during times when I even if I'd wanted to spend $1,000, I couldn't have come anywhere close to that. Because I'm paying for everything. Because I for most of their childhood, I got no child support, no nothing. I was on the hook for everything. So I couldn't afford to indulge them even if I wanted to. That may be the other parent's insecurity, or maybe they're trying to one-up you. Try to let it go. Just, when they come home with all their stuff, say, oh, wow, that's awesome. You got some great stuff here. Let's see what you got. And engage with your child and let them show you everything, because they're going to be really excited. Oh, my gosh, look at all these cool things. Like, yeah, wow. You're looking at it like, that's more than I got for Christmas my entire childhood put together. But that's awesome. Don't say that to your child, but yeah, just engage with them, because they're happy. They're going to be happy. Be happy for them. It's like, that's amazing. Look at that. Whoa. And then whether or not they've opened your presents, have them open your presents. They're going to be just as excited. They're going to like what you got them. Don't feel like you have to compete, because then it just becomes a game of one-upsmanship. Because trust me, some parents, like, say they spend $1,000, so then you spend $1,000 on their birthday. Well, then the other parent's just going to go spend $2,000. They're just going to keep going. It's like a game of chicken, and it's really not. It's not good for the child. It's not good for your bank account. just don't engage with them that way. But don't feel like you have to buy them everything they want because you feel guilty that the other parent isn't around. I know people that have done that. Anything their child wants, they go get it for them. And that's not so hard when they're little because they don't ask for expensive stuff typically. But as they get older, if you have kids, the older they get, the more expensive their things are. The things they want for Christmas and birthdays get more and more expensive every year. And, if you start out getting them everything they want, that's going to get harder every single year. So you have to learn to say no. You have to be able to say no, and you don't have to explain. You don't have to apologize. Your child needs to understand that sometimes the answer is going to be no, and when the answer is no, it does not mean ask again or ask louder. It means no. And my kids understand if they ask for something and I say no, that's the end of that. Do not keep asking me. Because you have to stick to it. When you say no, you got to mean it. And this is whether you're a single parent or not. Don't give in. I see parents do this all the time, like in Target or Walmart. The kid's screaming for a toy and the parent says, no, I'm not getting that. So the kid just screams louder. And the parent goes, okay, fine, shut up. Here, just take it. And I'm like, yeah, you just reinforced that behavior. Congratulations, you're raising a monster right there. That kid's going to keep doing that because the kid knows it works. The kid's not stupid. He knows how to get things out of you now. All they have to do is scream at you long enough and they'll get what they want. That's going to be real cute when they're 16. Yeah, that's when you end up with kids that beat up their parents. As a CPS investigator, I literally saw that. Once I had to go to an emergency room. They called CPS because the child was, a minor, and the kid gave his mom a black eye because she wouldn't let him borrow the car. It's really cute. But you don't have anything. You don't have to go crazy with gifts and treats and things for your kids. You don't. It's a corny saying, but they don't want your presents. presents. They want your presents. presence. They just want your time. They just want you. The stuff they get for Christmas, they're going to forget about it in a month. They couldn't even tell you what they got. If I were to ask my kids right now, what did you get for Christmas last year? They probably couldn't tell you. They probably couldn't. They want you. They want your time. They want your attention. They don't care about presents. They really don't. They're excited about them for a moment, and then it passes. So don't go out there and spend a bunch of money on it. And don't give them everything they want. Do not do that. You got to learn to say no, and you got to learn to mean it. Okay. Appreciate who and what you have. I wrote this after I printed out the things. Appreciate who and what you have. It's so easy to take for granted the people in your life, the things you have. To count your blessings. Like I said, we all teeter on that edge every minute of the day. You can lose it all. You can get a phone call, you can get a knock on the door, and your whole life will fall apart. So whatever you have now, appreciate it. Hug your kids, love your kids. Appreciate every good thing you have. The other people in your life that love you and that you love. Appreciate all of it while you have it. Now, as a CPS investigator, this is another thing that I saw way too often, especially with moms. Probably because usually the kids were in the care of the moms. Fathers do it too. Your child should come before a romantic partner. And that one right there I saw that a lot, that basically moms would choose their boyfriends over their kids. Your child should come before a romantic partner, hobbies, recreational stuff, etc. I understand, a lot of single parents want to date. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're putting your new romance above your kids, it's not good. Don't do that. You need to remember what your priorities are. And I'm not saying you can't have a life. I'm not saying you can't have things that you enjoy. I'm just saying they can't take the place of your kids. Your kids are not an afterthought. You need to focus on them. And don't date someone who is not good to your kids. It sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do that. Men and women date people that are just horrible to their kids. And they are so afraid of being alone, or they are so attached to this person. It's like they're blind to it. It's like they can't see what this, how this person is treating their kids. It's weird. It's like they're just unable. It's like they got blinders on, And then, CPS shows up at their door and they don't know why. Like, well, your kid is covered in bruises. That's why we're here. And they'll make every excuse for their boyfriend. Oh, no, he didn't do that. No, she fell down the stairs. And the child will just blatantly say, no, he did it. And there are parents that will call their child a liar for it. It's so sad. It is so sad to see it. I can't believe I even have to say that, but don't spend time with anyone who treats your kids bad. They don't matter as much as your child does. Let them go. Send them away. Get them out of your life. And it's okay to be single. You don't have to be with somebody. If you're not happy with yourself, a new fling is not going to make any difference. It's okay. I don't mind it. It's actually, I'm fine with it. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to be with somebody. Just enjoy your life. But if you do date, be upfront with anyone you date that you have kids. A lot of people don't do this. It's weird. Like, they won't even mention they have kids. Well, if it gets serious with that person, at what point are you going to break it to them? That's kind of a big thing, and they're going to wonder why you didn't tell them to start with. And it may be a deal breaker for them, and if it is, they kind of need to know that at the outset. You don't ever feel like you have to hide your children or lie about them. Be upfront from the beginning that you have children. Just tell them. And if they're not interested in dating you, then just cut your losses and move on. As my dad says, take your marbles and go on to another game. Okay. Find someone to vent to when things get rough, not your child. When you're going through rough times, whether it's with your child's other parent or, just life in general, your child is not your therapist. Do not expect your child to, give you therapy. You need to find a grown-up, whether it's a friend or a family member or a therapist, somebody that you can talk to away from your child. That's a good thing to have, because as a single parent, life is hard. I mean, it's hard whether you're a single parent or not. Just, life is hard. I know it's easy to think that, life is easier. It's easy for some people. Everybody goes through rough times in life. Whether it's finances or health problems or, family dynamics or whatever. Everybody has challenges. And we all need somebody to vent to, somebody to talk to just get it off our chest. And there's a lot of online counselors that you can look into if you don't have time to go anywhere. Like if you're like me, when my kids were little, I don't have any family around here. So when my kids were small, I'd have to pay a babysitter, and my closest relative is like 60 miles away. It's not very convenient. So I'd have to pay a sitter anytime I went anywhere. And I couldn't afford to do that. So online counseling would be a great thing that you can do from home. It's just an option. There are a lot of online options for therapy, like life coaches and things like that you can talk to online. But whoever it is, make sure it's not your kid, because it's not your kid's job to listen to you complain about everything, especially if it involves their other parent. Do not get them involved in that. They don't need to hear that. And along the financial line, search for ways to save money on everyday expenses. And that was something I had to do a great deal, especially when my kids were really small, like when my younger son was born. God, I was so broke. Oh my God, I was so incredibly broke. I had a lot of medical bills. I wasn't making as much money. I was getting no help at all from their father. I was on my own, and I was strapped for cash for a long time. It took me to pay off all of the medical expenses from labor and delivery and all the related medical stuff from having him. He was 2 years old before I finally paid all that off. So anyway, you have to find ways to save money, whatever that is for you. For me, I had been shopping at Goodwill for a long time, but that was something I continued to do for my kids. If I couldn't get hand-me-downs from people for clothes, then I would go look at Goodwill for clothes. You can find really nice stuff at consignment shops, thrift stores. That's where I got all my maternity clothes for both pregnancies. They came from thrift stores and consignment shops. Saved a lot of money there. And they grow so fast. They outgrow those clothes super fast. So it's like you're constantly buying clothes for a while there. And I saved a lot of money doing that. I know I'm not going to get into the whole debate about cloth diapers versus disposable. We're not going to get into that. You do whatever works for you. Or breastfeeding or bottle feeding. We're not going to get into that. Do what works for you. I say that all the time. Whatever works for you is what you should definitely do. It is not my job to tell you what to do. But I used Kirkland diapers from Costco for my younger son, and I saved a ton of money buying those. They were so much cheaper, and they're actually great diapers. Any little thing you can do to save money, comparison shop for your groceries. Every little bit helps, just the pennies add up, to dollars, and it really makes a difference, and it can help you get by financially. And along that line, prepare a budget, figure out where your money's going. And this is something that I think everybody needs to do, because I hear all the time, theoretically, from people who say, oh, I'm broke, I don't have any money. But these are people who go out to eat 5 days a week. They're going out for lunch, and then they go out for dinner. They may stop and pick up breakfast on the way to work. And I thought, if you would just add up, they're going to Starbucks, add up for a month how much you're spending going out to eat. And I think you would be amazed how much money you are blowing on that. I'm sorry, that's just how I see it. There's nothing wrong with going out to eat and treating yourself, but if you need to figure out where your money's going, and you might be shocked to see how much money you are spending needlessly. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself every now and then, but if you are strapped for cash and you have a child and you need to start, oh my gosh, I have these new expenses now because of my child. How am I going to pay for this? I don't make enough money. Well, maybe you do make enough money. Oh, Boots is back, theoretically. If you follow my theoretical, it's Boots. Hang on a second. Okay, I think it's over. What I would recommend you do, whether you have kids or not, okay, for at least a week, preferably longer, 2 or 3 weeks or a month, every day, write down every penny you spend. I don't care if you spend a quarter in a gumball machine, write it down. Write down where all of your money is going. Write down how much money you have coming in and how much you have going out and where is it going. And then look at, okay, you have to figure out what your necessities are. You've got your utilities, rent or mortgage, childcare, food, medical stuff, whatever. You need to look at your necessities that have to be paid, and you need to pay those first. Those always need to be paid first. And see, that's another way that I was really lucky growing up, is that my parents never had a lot of money. We grew up pretty poor, but my parents taught me to save money and to budget my money. They taught me to manage my money. And to this day, I am so grateful. And you need to teach your kids the same thing. And I don't think I made a card on that. Teach your kids to manage their money. Give them an allowance. And this is what my parents did. We would do work around the house, and then we would get a certain amount of money once a week. And if we wanted anything, we had to save up our money for it. My parents wouldn't buy it. We'd have to save up our own money if we wanted something special. And you learn to wait, you learn patience, you learn, what, do I really want it bad enough to pay that for it? You learn to be a little bit wiser about your purchases that way. Teach your kids to manage money. Teach them to balance a checkbook. Teach them to read a bank statement. Teach them how to take care of their expenses. You need to look at paying the important stuff first. And if you have any money left over, some of that needs to go into savings. Don't just automatically take it and blow it. You also need to be thinking about your retirement. You need to be putting some money into retirement. If you're not making enough money, you need to figure out what you can do to make more. You can either go back to school, online classes, look for a different job, or do like I did, sell stuff on eBay in your spare time if you can. I did a lot of that. eBay put a lot of food on my table. I've been selling on eBay since 1999, and especially when my children were younger. Oh God, eBay was such a lifesaver because it was something I could do at night. When the kids were asleep, I could list stuff on eBay, or on the weekends. I could work on it when I had a few minutes. I could work on it, and the extra money really came in handy. But figure out where your money's going and see if you can tighten your budget up, if there's anything you can take out, because part of being a single parent is sacrifice. When you become a single parent, you are going to have to sacrifice. It's inevitable. You will. Whether you're getting money from the other parent or not, you're still going to have to sacrifice. And that is, you're going to have to sacrifice money. You're going to have to sacrifice time. You're going to have to sacrifice sleep. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot. And that's another thing you want to think about if you're very young, a teenager, and you're thinking about having a child. You can forget going out at night. You can forget, taking spontaneous trips here and there. You can forget all that. And you should not expect your parents to raise your child. If you think they're just going to take care of it for you, that is very selfish and inappropriate, and you should not expect your parents to do that. They already raised their kids. That's just how I feel. If you're going to have a child, you have to be prepared to sacrifice for it. And not just when you feel like it, but every single day. You also want to prepare a time budget. It's the same as money. Take a week or two or more, and in 15-minute blocks, write down what you do with your time. Because I hear people say this all the time. Oh, I have no free time. I want to write a book, but I don't have time. Like, yeah, you do. Yes, you do. You do have time. What is it? The average American spends it's some obscene amount of time every day watching TV. I swear it's like 5 hours a day, if not more. They spend every day watching television, or they're online. They're doing something. They're in front of a screen for at least 5 hours a day, maybe more. What if you just took one of those hours a day and put it towards writing a book? Just take 1 hour away from your screen, put your phone down, turn the TV off. You take that 1 hour and you sit down and you work on a book. You'd be surprised how much progress you can make in a very short period of time. So if you feel like you never have any time, figure out where all your time is going, and I think you would find that you piss a lot of it away. There's nothing wrong with downtime, but yeah, just write down where all your time is going, and I think you'd be shocked to see how much free time you really have. Use whatever works to keep you motivated, whether it's affirmations or talking to a friend or whatever, because we all need encouragement. We all need a little pep talk every now and then, whether we give it to ourselves or get it from somebody else or whatever. If reading books of positive quotes, or Chicken Soup for the Soul, or whatever makes you feel good. Watching Bob Ross makes me feel good, makes me happy. Whatever it is that works for you, take some time to do that when you need to, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes. Just say some positive affirmations, or do some yoga stretches, or jump up and down, run around the house, whatever it is that works for you to keep you motivated and keep you going. Because raising a child, whether you're by yourself or not, it's not a sprint, it's really a marathon. I mean, it is a long distance run, and you have to keep yourself motivated by any means possible. I mean, not, don't get on drugs and alcohol or anything like that. Don't start drinking every day. Can I say that? There is something in it. I see it a lot. All these funny little quips about wine, and it's wine o'clock, and I'm a mom and I need my wine. Like, don't. And I know a lot of it's just in good fun, but if you feel the need to start drinking every day, that's not a good coping strategy for your life. I'm not saying you're going to become an alcoholic, but you don't need to be drinking every day to deal with your life. If you're drinking every day, you really need to go talk to somebody and figure out a better way to cope with your life. Do that. Oh, this saved me right here. If you work outside of the home, find my kid's not super sick care provider if possible. I had this. Oh, God bless her. I found this lady, and I've kind of fallen out of touch with each other. I haven't seen her in a while, but when, if you have kids in daycare, you've probably experienced this thing where if they have a fever of even like 99.1, they'll make the kid go home, and it doesn't matter. It can be the middle of summer. They've been outside running around and they get hot. If they come in and take their temperature and it's 99.1, they'll send them home and they won't be able to come back the next day. I had to deal with that several times. So you got this kid, right? And they're not really sick. I had this one time. Oh, I'm still angry about this. Okay, so I dropped my kid off at daycare and I go to work. I had been at work for about 10 minutes and my phone rang, and it was the daycare. And they said to me, yes, your son just told us that his tummy hurts and we're going to need you to come pick him up. I said, what do you mean? You need me to come pick him up? Well, he said his tummy hurts. Okay, is he running a fever? Well, no. Did he throw up? No. Has anything happened? No. But he said his tummy hurts, so he needs to go home. And they literally made me, I had been there for 10 minutes. I had to turn around, pick him up. I had to take the rest of the day off work because I had nobody to watch him. I had to take him home. He was fine. There was nothing wrong. I don't know why he said his tummy hurt. Maybe he had a little gas. I don't know. But, and it gets better. So I take him in the next day to drop him off so I can go to work, finally. And they go, oh, we're sorry. You can't bring him here today. I said, why not? They said, well, he was out yesterday because, his tummy hurt. So our policy is they have to stay out for a minimum of 48 hours. I said, but he wasn't sick. But he said his tummy hurt, so we classify that as sick. I'm sorry. I had to take 2 days off work because he said one time my tummy hurts. So it was after that I realized, okay, I can't. First of all, I found a different daycare center because that had a whole litany of problems with that daycare center. So I found a different one, and it got better after that. But if they're not like sick, and I don't have any family around here, so I don't have like my mom or my dad or anybody to watch them. So I found this lady. She actually lived pretty close to me. Single mom, just like me, but her kids were a lot older. I think her kids were in middle school when we first met. Anyway, her kids were at school all day. She was at home, and she wanted me to make a little extra money. She didn't, she would only charge me like $20 to watch the kid all day, and it wasn't that often. Now, like if they were actually sick, I would stay home with them, like if they were running a fever and they were legitimately sick, I would stay home. But, if they had just been, like running around outside and then come in and complain that, they feel hot and sweaty. Well, no kidding. You've been running around outside. It's like 80 degrees outside. And they take their temperature. Oh, I'm sorry, you got to go home. That kind of thing. Then, she would watch them for me, and I could go to work. So I didn't miss a day's work, and I would only have to pay her like $20 or $30 to keep him all day while I was at work. So it kept me from burning up all of my vacation time, which was good, and I could still, go to work and do my job. So if you don't have anybody near you, if you do have somebody near you, that's awesome, but I didn't really have anybody that could watch my kids in those circumstances. Or like if we had bad weather and the daycare was shut down, like if we had an ice storm or something, but I could get to work, she would either come to my house or I would take them to her, and she would watch them while I went to work, that kind of thing. Here's a good time saver, and it's also economical. Get a crock pot or a pressure cooker and learn how to use it. It's really great for preparing quick meals, And, you can make a really good meal cheaper than you can go get takeout somewhere. Like if you're going off to work, that was always one of my favorite things to do was, put everything in the crock pot, turn it on. Don't forget to turn it on because I've done that. Like put everything in there and forget to turn it on. I did that once. And then you come home and your whole house smells so good. Your whole house is just like, it smells like somebody's been there cooking for you all day, and it's just lovely aroma greets you when you walk in the door. And you have a hot meal ready to go so you and your kids can eat right away. It's awesome. It's wonderful. And plan things ahead as much as possible. And that can be like meal planning for the week or fixing, getting things together for lunches for the week. Anything you can do ahead of time to save you a little bit of time during the week is wonderful because some weeks, can be super hectic. Plan ahead as much as you can. I used to do it a lot on Sunday evenings. It's like the weekend is winding down and, after dinner the kids are watching TV or whatever, and, I'll do stuff like that. You can also try online support groups for single parents, but don't stay if it's not helpful. I found this support group for single moms, but I found that it was super catty and full of drama and strife. Like it was just a bunch of drama queens, and there was no online support going on. It was just single moms like clawing and hissing at one another, and it was really terrible. I bet the single dads groups are better, but I couldn't join that because they would think I was trolling for a man or something. But I just don't imagine single dads being that way. I don't know why women have to be so catty. That is one of my complaints about women, is that it's like you get into these mommy groups online and it's just a bunch of harvests, it's like an echo chamber. It's terrible. So try the online support groups. There's a bunch of them on Facebook. But, there are a ton of them, so you can shop around. Do not stay in there if it's just toxic and awful. Just get out of the group and try a different one. God, I still got a lot of cards left. Let me get through these right quick. My word. I knew this was going to be long when I saw how many cards I had. Expect respect from your children. Nobody raises their children to have respect anymore. Have you noticed how rude children are? It bugs me. It's just a pet peeve of mine. The children are so rude. I always raise my children to say please and thank you and you're welcome and yes ma'am and yes sir, and to respect their elders. They're not, so many kids are just like wild animals, and they have no table manners. They're like wild animals. Take the time to teach your children some respect and some manners and expect it of them. But you have to model it yourself as well, so it helps you work on your manners too. And this one is not fun. Oh, Pumpkin wants out. Hang on. Pumpkin popped out from under the bed and started singing me a song for some reason. Okay. Deal with the consequences that led to you being a single parent, whether it's divorce or they just left or a death or whatever it is. If you need to grieve the loss of your partner, your spouse, deal with that. My parents were married for 33 years and they were not happy years, and they have now been divorced for 30 years, and my mother still harbors a lot of anger and resentment toward my dad. I don't know why, but she never dealt with the fallout of that divorce. And I've been listening to her grumble about it for 3 decades now. You need to take some time to deal with whatever led up to you being a single parent, whether you need to deal with your relationship with that person, get some closure to the end of the relationship if needed. Focus on the choices you've made in your life and try to move on and make better choices if needed in the future. A lot of single parents don't do that, and they continue making mistakes. But a lot of us didn't end up single parents because of bad mistakes. Be the kind of person that you want your child to grow up to be. Again, you want to model good behavior. focus on how you talk and how you act and how you handle adversity and strife in your life, because your kid is going to be watching you. You got an audience every day. Your child is watching to see how you cope with things, because they're learning every day how to be an adult by watching you and the other adults in their life. Give them a good example to follow. Be a good teacher for your children. Don't just, fold up like a 98-cent card table when life gets hard and expect somebody else to fix it for you. Roll up your sleeves and fix it yourself. Show your kid that it can be done. Yeah. Enjoy your time with your child. They really do grow up fast. If you have little kids, I know you've heard this. It is so true. Oh my gosh. I can tell you, I cannot believe how fast my kids have grown up. It has gone so fast. I just realized on the way home from work today, I just realized as of March will be the last month that I had to pay for childcare. I'm done paying for childcare, and it was almost exactly 15 years I had to pay for childcare. But it's hard to believe, because I had daycare, and then I had, because my kids are 4.5 years apart, I had after school care expenses for my younger son up until mid-March when they got out of school for the pandemic. And then he'll be going into middle school, and I won't have any more after school expenses. So I'm finally done with childcare after a decade and a half. Man, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long. It doesn't seem like it's been 15 years. My God, it only seems like it's been 4 or 5, seriously. And it's like you blink and they grow up right in front of you. It's crazy. So enjoy the time that you have with them. Take time and spend time with your kids. Seriously, take lots of pictures. Something I wish I had done. This is great. Take a notebook, and whenever your kids do or say something funny, write it down. Because there have been so many times my kids did stuff and said stuff that was hilarious, and I wish I had written it down, because now I don't remember all of it. Do that. Or if just something funny happens, or they say something funny, just take a minute and write it in the notebook. Oh, you're going to treasure that. When they're grown, you're going to be so glad you have that. And you can share it with them. Now, this is something I've done for my kids for many years, going way back from when they were little. Dedicate at least one day a year to each child. And that may not sound like a lot, and I'm not saying don't spend time with your kid the rest of the time. What I'm saying is take one day off, and I would take a day off every year. It was usually in the summer. I have 2 kids, so I'd take 2 days off. And I usually do it in the summer when they're home. And we would go do whatever they wanted to do within reason. I mean, like if they want to fly to Rome, we're not going to do that. But if they wanted to go to a water park, or they just want to go hiking or go bowling, whatever they want to do for the day, it's just me and that one kid. The other kid is wherever they're going to be. It's just, I would spend my whole day with just that one kid, and we would go do whatever they wanted to do. If they want to go to a certain restaurant, we'll go there. And then if they want to go bowling, we'll go bowling. Whatever they want to do, I am at their disposal all day. And I do that for both of them. Every year, we pick a day, and whatever they want to do, they can plan it in advance. And we will go do, within reason, whatever they want to go do. And this is something I always wished that my mom would do for me. My dad and I spent a lot of time together because he had a motorcycle, and we used to love to go ride the motorcycle. We spent a lot of time together, but my mom always seemed like she never had any time for me. She was always either too busy or too tired, and she wouldn't play with me. And I would have given anything for my mom to do this for me. And I bet if you did this for your kid, it would mean the world to them. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or extravagant. Just, say, well, let's take a day. I'll take a day off work, or, whatever arrangements you need to make. What would you like to do? Just, give it some thought. Give them a few days notice. Just think of some things you'd like to go do, and you and I will go do that. Just you and me, nobody else. And I bet it would mean the world to your child to do that, even if you just do it one day a year. Yeah, it's awesome. And spend uninterrupted time with your kids. Put your phone away. Don't sit there fiddling on your phone. Sit down and talk to them or play with them, or if they want to show you something in a video game. My younger son does that a lot. He wants to show me stuff in these video games, and he'll show me things. I don't know what the heck he's talking about most of the time, but I try to understand. He was talking to me earlier about axes. He's fascinated with hatchets and axes, and he was telling me about all these different types of fireman's axes, and I had no idea he knew so much about fireman's axes, but he's fascinated with axes. So he's telling me about that. But while they're talking to you, they need to have your undivided attention, and they're going to know if they don't have it. Trust me, your kids are smart. They're going to know if you're not listening to them. Give them your undivided attention. Try to do that at least once a day. And be grateful for the help you receive. If you're lucky enough to have family nearby or friends who can help you out, don't take them for granted. Don't, because trust me, I know what it's like to not have that, to feel like you're marooned on an island and you're all by yourself. I wish I had that. I didn't have that. I still don't. I don't really need daycare, childcare, or anything anymore, but yeah, I'm just kind of on an island unto myself. But if you have people that help you out, don't take that for granted, and let them know that you appreciate it. Just tell them. If nothing else, just tell them, thank you so much for being there for me. And I appreciate you. And apologize to your children when you screw up. Like if you do vent to them about their other parent, because I've done it. I've slipped up and done it. Or if you lose your temper with them, or anything like that, take a minute, collect yourself, and apologize and really mean it, and tell them that you're sorry. And it will help teach them humility and to learn to accept the responsibility for things they do. And hopefully it will, help them to grow up to be a little bit more compassionate and able to own up to things like that. Learn to say no to others in your life and your child when needed. That's what I was saying a minute ago. Don't give your kid everything they want. Don't give in to their every whim. But also don't feel like you have to do that for other people in your life either. You don't have to. It's okay to say no sometimes, and to look out for your own best interest. If someone, if you're really busy this weekend and somebody needs you to come do volunteer work all day, Saturday and Sunday, and you just can't, it's okay to say no. It's all right. You need to take care of yourself and your own household first. And you also need to learn not to overindulge your child. So learn to say no. And also learn to budget your time, money, and energy. We've already talked about that. But yeah, it's important to make sure you can take care of your responsibilities. Always pay the bills first. Don't get your paycheck and go out and blow it. A lot of people do that, but don't. And put some money away. Save some money for emergencies. You need to try to save up money for emergencies. And you need to start building your retirement. If you're not building a retirement account, you need to start doing that. I've always contributed to mine all through this, even if it was just $20 a week or $20 a month or whatever I could. I've always put money into my 401k. Because, yeah, you might want to retire one day. I don't want to work until I'm deceased. I'd like to have a little bit of time to relax. Don't be afraid to ask for help, but don't take advantage of others either. See, it's a balancing act. One of the hardest things for me was when everything hit the fan in my own personal life, and I was 2 months pregnant, and I had to go to my parents to tell them. Those were tough phone calls to make. I called my mom, and then I called my dad. It's like, I got some news. Not great news. Well, one thing is great. I'm pregnant, and here's what's going on, and I need help. Those were the hardest phone calls I've ever made. I've never asked my parents for help. I've been on my own since I was 17. I've never asked them for any help. But I had to, because I needed some help. And fortunately, that was the only time I had to, but I was forever grateful. I've thanked them profusely and done everything I could to make it up to them. But don't take advantage of people's generosity. If people help you, it's not because they have to, it's because they want to. And you don't need to become dependent on that. And this is important to remember whether you're a single parent or not. One day doesn't define you as a parent. Keep going. If you have a bad day, and everything seems to go wrong, it's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. Try to fix what you can today, and tomorrow, it'll go better. It's an old saying, it can't rain every day. It'll be okay. You just keep going and trying and doing your best every day, and don't let that one day define you. And my last card, remember, this too shall pass. Whatever you're going through right now that makes you feel like I'm never going to make it, I'm never going to survive this, because I went through that when my kids were really little. There were days that I felt I was so tired, and I was so stressed, and I thought I'm never going to get through this. But then it's like a snap of the fingers, boom, and it's 5 years later, and everything has changed. You will get through it. This will pass. Things are hard now, but if you keep working every day towards making them better, you got to put in the work. You got to do the work. You can make it better. Keep at it every day. Love your kids. Spend time with them. And it will pass. It will be okay. You're going to be okay. And your kids are going to be okay. Everybody's going to be okay. It'll pass. And you'll get through it. You'll make it. I know you will make it. Because you're going to work hard and you're going to focus on improving the situation, and you will make it better, and you will make it okay. Because I have faith in you. If I can do it, you can do it. So that is everything, and that went insanely long. If you didn't watch it all at once, I don't blame you. I was afraid it'd go that long. But anyway, I hope this helps. Again, it's just my advice. I'm not an expert. It's not the gospel truth. It's just how I feel about things. And I hope that at least you got a few little pieces of wisdom and advice that will help you. So, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have a great day, and I will see you again soon.